I have to say, with 33 degrees, this is going to be the hottest speech I've ever given. Now, it's a beautiful summer's day, pretty much like today. And I'm in the back of the garden playing. And my mother calls, lunch. And as I run in, I get to the kitchen, and there she is holding a huge hypodermic syringe. It's 1972, I'm 3 years old, and I've just been diagnosed as a type 1 diabetic. And that hypodermic syringe, that's for me. So I've been living with type 1 diabetes for over 50 years, and we know each other extremely well. And I'm on a mission to empower diabetics by sharing strategies that I've learned and built over time that have allowed me to change my mindset, my emotional well-being, and my life as a diabetic. So the first question is probably a good one to answer, which is, diabetes, what is it? Everyone's got a view and an angle on it, but in essence, really it is the inability to control your blood sugars because the body doesn't produce enough or any insulin, or it can't utilize the insulin that's in your body. And it results in high blood sugars. And high blood sugars destroy over time, it's very insidious, but it destroys over time your organs and your tissues, operates at a cellular level. So if you've got a problem with your eyes, more than likely you got a problem with your kidneys, you got a problem with your heart, it's all over the place. And there are two broad types. You got type 1, that's me, and then the brilliant men decided we'll have type 1, so therefore we should have type 2. And type 2 is 90% of people. And that is a huge chunk of the population, really. And then the other is just gestational sort of diabetes and that sort of stuff. But they're the two key types. Now, type 2 diabetes, just to give you a quick overview of how it operates. Type 2 works in two ways. You either don't produce enough insulin, which you need to introduce insulin into the body just to bring it up to the level required each day, or you have an issue with insulin receptors. And insulin receptors sit in cells. And can you see there, that cell there? So you have the insulin at the top, and it's like it's a key. And the insulin receptor is the lock. And when they connect, it'll open the cell and allow it to consume glucose. That won't happen if they're not correctly aligned. And here you can actually see it working there. It's actually absorbing the glucose in. With type 2 diabetics, they have problems with their insulin receptors. Now, I'm a type 1, as I've already mentioned. And with type 1 diabetes, this is an autoimmune syndrome. So the body attacks itself, it destroys the pancreatic beta cells, and the beta cells produce a hormone called insulin. And that hormone effectively allows the cells to consume carbohydrate. That does not exist in type 1 diabetes. So as a result, we have to inject. I do a minimum of 6 injections a day, but I have to inject, and then I have to ensure that I eat a controlled diet, and then I have to check my blood sugars to make sure that I don't go too high or too low. And that effectively covers off with just the two broad types. So let's get into the numbers. So this is a bit of a strange image, Big Bird, but that's how I felt as a kid. Because I was like Big Bird. I was the only guy who was Big Bird. Everyone else was fine. I was the only diabetic. But that's changing. In the UK at the moment, there are 4.6 million diagnosed diabetics. It gets worse. And then just to give you a feel for that, that's 230,000 fully packed tube carriages. Alright? So that's quite a number. Now, on top of that, there's a load of diabetics who are running around the UK who are undiagnosed. So effectively they're killing themselves and they're unaware that they have diabetes. And it's a slow, insidious disease, so they just kind of feel like they're slowing down a bit. But that number stands at 1.3 million. And that is more than the entire population of Birmingham, the second biggest city in the UK. And the next number is shocking. These are what we refer to as pre-diabetics, high risk are becoming type 2 diabetics. And that number stands at 6.3 million. And to give you an angle on that, that's more than 5 times the number of NHS workers in the UK, which is enormous. And when you boil them all down, 1 in 5 people in the UK are diabetic or pre-diabetic, which is enormous. It is a huge issue. And again, if you like your football, Wembley, 90,000, that's 18,000 times or Wembleys in one go. That's how many people there are with diabetes or pre-diabetes. It is enormous. Now, that's a fantastic image of me there. Very cutting. 15 years ago. Now, I think that was in New York, so there was actually some sunshine. But at that point in time, I was out of control. I was struggling, and I was not in charge of my diabetes. And it was it was quite a struggle, and it was a constant battle. Every day I'd get up and I'd try and get on top of it, but I just couldn't. And I'm not the only sort of diabetic in that field. And a lot of us will go through that, and we pay a very high cost. So where do we pay that? Well, there's a personal cost. Diabetics on average make 230 decisions on top of all the decisions that you guys make every day. They carry a huge emotional burden with them. I'll get onto that in a moment. It's tiring, it's difficult. And you're trying to bring your A game when you're talking to your wife as a partner or your husband. Your wife, your co-worker. It's very difficult to bring yourself at your very best when you're doing that. The physical costs. Sorry, I don't know why it keeps dropping off. There we go. So the physical cost. If you're running high blood sugars, you generally get stuff like blurred vision because the high blood sugars cause the lens to swell. You'll get a huge amount of urine, literally because your excess blood sugar, the body is trying to literally urinate the sugar out of you. And if you ever get like that, you can actually smell the urine and it smells sweet. And then you're in constant state of dehydration because of the urination, you're drinking a lot. And if you don't get on top of it then, and you let it roll, well then you're into nerve damage, heart disease, kidney damage, blindness, and the odd amputation. So it's not a bad run. And then the emotional cost, it's enormous. The emotional cost is enormous. These constant black shadows. And it's a huge, the anger in most diabetics is enormous. To be living with this, why me, why have I got it? Why do I have to get up in the morning? Why do I have this regime? And then on top of that, if you're not in control, the self-loathing, that process that you go through, the self-hate, the guilt, the shame, you're not looking after it, well, why would anyone else be bothered? Why would anyone invest any time with you? It's very, very tough. And all of those costs, along with my lack of control, well, where's it going? There we go. It resulted in a red flag for me. I was getting myself ready to fly out to China, and I was about to take part in 2 legs of a round the world yacht race. And I was just doing a bit of grooming, and I was cutting my nails. And I picked up one of my fingernails, and I crushed the nail into a powder between my 2 fingers. That shouldn't happen. I then picked up another one, and I just snapped it in half. It was brittle. It wasn't malleable. And I knew straight away I had 2 problems. One, I was out of control. And the second one was, I didn't even know how to get back into control. I was so far gone and I'd let it really fall apart. And I knew something had to change. I'm just about to head off to China. I'm going to sail across the North Pacific to San Francisco in a race. Thank God I'm married. My beautiful wife, who is amazing. She's an amazing researcher. And she has an ability, when I Google something and she Googles, hers looks like Einstein just did it, mine looks like a 2-year-old did it. I just can't compare. And she found this guy. This guy is Dr. Richard Bernstein. This guy became a very close confidant, a friend, unfortunately just passed away about 6 weeks ago. But he was a type 1 diabetic, and he became a doctor at 45 to specialize in it, and he has a complete maverick approach to diabetes. It's so maverick that he takes you on for 3 days and retrains you straight through. And on day 1, well, it was going so well, I almost left. I couldn't believe what he was saying to me. He was asking me to do all sorts of things. Huge change. They were massive. And I couldn't understand it. Why? I can't do this. There's no way I'm doing this. And the changes, well, they were around my injections. I went from 3 injections a day to 6 minimum. Blood tests, I used to do 2 every couple of days. It's a bit like driving a car with no steering wheel. You haven't got a chance. He wants me to do 8 of them a day. I got to record everything. Everything. When I get up, what injections I took, how much I took, what I ate. It's just too much. And then food. He removed all my carbohydrates. No fruit, no bread, no pasta, no rice, no potatoes. I'm Irish. Touch this. My family were in shock. My friends were in shock, as was my country. This was big moves. But genuinely, I thought, no way, I can't do this. And I remember taking that train from upstate New York, Mamaroneck, and coming back on the train to Brooklyn in Dumbo. And just repeating, I can't. And my brilliant wife, incredibly manipulative, but anyway, she gave me a notebook and a pen. And she told me, go down to that pub in the corner, get a pint, and start writing. And I started to write. And guess what I started to write? Oh, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do that, I can't do it. I can't do it. And I was writing furiously for about 20 minutes. And my hands started to cramp up. And as it did, I sat up and I took a swig out of my pint. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, I suddenly went, what if I could? What if I could do those injections? What if I could stick to that diet? And it was like a moment, an epiphany, because from there, I could see a vision. And then suddenly I was like, well, what the hell do I want? What do I want out of my life? What do I want out of my life with diabetes? And it started to resonate with me. Diabetes isn't just about the regime. You can follow the regime, but to stay on it, to keep doing it every day, that requires a change in mindset. You cannot do it without a change in mindset. It just won't happen. How many of you joined the gym in Jan and you're gone in Feb? Jumped on a diet, 2 weeks later and it's out the bin. Try to stop drinking, I know it's difficult. But all of those, it's because of the mindset. And this is where I developed the A1C strategy. So let me give you a bit of a context of the A1C, how it came about. I love a bit of street art, so there we go. So as a diabetic, there's a HbA1c, is the gold standard blood test you get. And it tests the 3-month average blood sugar. And it is every time you go to a professional, you get one of those, and then the doctor will start to talk to you about that. So I've leveraged that, and I've decided to give it the A1C so it resonates with diabetics. The A is about awaken, and we'll sort of touch on these as well. The one is identify, give me a little bit of poetic license on Irish. And then the C is for choose. And we're going to tap into each one of these just very gently, but with regard to my company, Diabetes Take Control, I run workshops, and this is an all day, so it's very big. So awaken. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to tap into the deep, fundamental motivating factors that diabetics, that make them want to get up, that make them go, that drive them. Because in tapping those, we can start to get an understanding of what they're about. And when I answer the question, what do I want for my life with diabetes? I want to live a long and healthy life. I want to live a long and healthy life with my wife. I want to read great books. I want to make an impact. I want to climb a mountain. I want to do a lot of things. I want to have great conversations with people I've never met. I can't do any of that if I don't look after it. And that foundation that we're building at this point, when those storms come, and come they will, this is what keeps you tethered. This is what keeps you there. And this morning, or not this morning, a couple of weeks ago I got up and I just didn't want to do 3 injections of 1 blood test as soon as I got up. I wanted to do something else. And I went out the back, took a few deep breaths of air, and I thought about, what is it you want? And I did do them, which is why I'm still here. But that is a key driver. The next one, identify. Identify what's blocking you. Everyone here will have a block. Everyone. It doesn't matter what you do, there's blocks. You always have blocks. It doesn't matter. You can't stop them. Sorry, I put it back. Oh, there we go. Oh, sorry. There we go. We'll leave it for a moment. So identify. Identify what your blocks are. And in identifying the blocks, we need to write them down. We need to be conscious of what these blocks are. And with regard to that, we need to then change the story. Now, I'm accelerating this quite quickly. We would spend a couple of hours talking about this. But I'll give you an example. I used to hate doing blood tests. I hated it. Why? Because they were always crap. Always crap. It was a reminder to me that I wasn't invested in myself or my future, that I didn't care, wasn't bothered. Why would anyone want to be involved with me, engaged with me, or anything like that? And then I'd go into this mental, sort of emotional roller coaster of self-loathing, self-hate, self-anger, and a lack of self-confidence. And this would take about 20, 30 minutes. And at the end of it, I was exhausted. So why would I want to do 8 of them in a day? No chance. But I changed that story. And I sat down and I realized that I do blood tests because it provides me with information that gives me control to take action if I need to, so that I can live a long and healthy life. How much more empowering is that? And diabetics will have lots of blocks, and it stops them moving forward and engaging and taking power of their bodies. And then the last one is C for choose. Here, I'm talking about language. Choose your language. How do you talk to yourself about your diabetes, internally and externally? How do you talk to your people that you meet about your diabetes? If you're constantly saying, I can't do this, I can't do it, it's too hard, I can't control my blood sugars, I'm just not good enough, guess what? It'll manifest. It will manifest. And you will feel as it manifests a lack of self-confidence. So it's incredibly important you have 2 centurions on the gates of your subconscious mind, because this is where your operating system sits. And if you're not in control of it, you really haven't got a chance. But also be very careful about how people talk to you. I used to get people who come to me and they go, "You're a crazy diet, how do you do this?" I go, "Well, it's not a crazy diet. This is what I do. This is me. This is my lifestyle." And it was always very funny because these people would come back to me a week or 2 later and they would say, "Tell me about your diet." And they engage with me, get curious about it. But you've got to be very careful, because lots of people will come to me and say, "I don't know how you do this. It's incredible. It's so hard, so difficult." You've got to take care to get that out of your head. And this is another area that we deal on. Now, this is the A1C strategy. Just to give a quick reminder: awaken, identify, and choose. So, what has this done for me? It's transformed my life. My diabetic control is superb. It's as good as any of you here with non-diabetics. And it's like that because I can consistently and continually follow that regime, and it's hard, but I do. I can do it and accept it, and I'm at ease with it. With regard to my emotional well-being, I was here, I'm up here now. I feel at peace with my diabetes. And not only at peace, it no longer defines me. I don't open conversations saying I'm a diabetic. I need to be careful, I can't do this, I can't do that. It doesn't define me. I live life. And the mindset? Well, that changed in that bar in Brooklyn. With a nice pint of Brooklyn lager, I have to say. And those 2 questions. what if I can, or what if I could do this? And what do you want? And that redefined the future that I saw, and it allowed me to embrace a very new future. So I'll leave you with a thought. If you were to take on these two questions, where might they take you? And with that, I'll close. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Am I within the 20?
Yeah, thank you, Simon. Now, as I told Simon earlier on, I've got a lot of experience with this. My late sister, she's a diabetic and died because of diabetes. But you talked about the diet, what you couldn't have. What did you actually eat? What was on the diet? Did you have beer? What did you have on the diet?
So initially when I went on the diet, I take 6 strips of bacon and 3 eggs every morning. That was great, loved that. Then we got into 171 grams of protein and 2 1/3 cups of green veg for lunch, 115 grams of protein for dinner, and 2 1/3 cups of green veg. That's pretty much it. Beer, he never wanted me to drink again, so I said, that's not going to happen. So what I did was, I agreed with him to stop drinking hard liquor, because I used to love my whiskey. Because hard liquor, the liver will only process one thing at a time, and it will process the most toxic. So if you eat dinner and then you have a whiskey, it'll process the whiskey and it's not processing the food.
Whiskey?
Huh?
Is it toxic?
I'm afraid it is. And I'm hurt. We call it the water of life.
Yes.
That diet is quite restrictive. So with regards to sort of the beer, what I did was I got a notebook and I'd go to a pub and I'd say, I'm going to drink Heineken. I'd take a blood sugar, drink a pint of Heineken, take a blood sugar straight after, I have the second one, take a blood sugar straight after that, an hour after that, 2 hours after that. And the numbers were incredible. Almost all of the beers that I tried skyrocketed, except for Amstel.
Oh, wow.
And Amstel works. So anywhere I go, I drink Amstel and white wine. I get away with white wine. I can't quite explain the white wine, but I can have a couple of glasses. Nothing excessive, nothing like, when I used to be a rugby player, I drank quite a bit, so nothing like that. True.
So basically, what do you do to become carbohydrates?
Carbohydrates are a huge variable. So I'll give you a good example. The food industry will push eat carbs, protein, eat this. I used to do a lot of triathlons. You get like huge plates of pasta shoved down your face because you need carbs to do this. So he said you don't need anywhere near that amount of carbs. And it took me a while to buy into it, but I'll tell you where I clicked is I went out to Everest Base Camp. That's a pretty heavy duty walking trekking gig. And I did it on protein powder, eggs, cabbage, get cabbage everywhere. And then whatever meat was available at the time, if there was any meat available. And that was it, I didn't have any carbohydrate. And I had 1 low blood sugar, 1. And I was completely convinced. So I have generally at lunch 12 grams of carbohydrate. You guys on average would probably have anything between 70 and 130, 40. And you don't need most of that.
And what did the doctors say here when you were going?
Well, they were shocked.
And when you told them what you were doing, did they go?
They told me I was mad, I shouldn't do it, don't go near it. But when I started coming back with the numbers, the HbA1c, they couldn't, they were in shock. And it was unfortunate because I brought back about 12 books that he gave me, all his sort of work, and I gave him out, only 1 doctor in the entire hospital read it. Which is a pity, yeah.
But you still have to do it to inject?
I do. So I used to see Richard once a month.
Yeah, but how many times do you inject now?
Oh, minimum 6.
Inject
Minimum.
6 times.
Yeah, minimum.
But you're stable. Now what you're saying is because of this diet and what he's told you, you're completely stable to what you were 15 years ago, and you don't feel any of your organs are now going to be destroyed by the diabetes.
2 years ago I got a 50-year all clear for my kidneys. Absolutely nothing wrong. And with regard, like the regime is massive, but the mindset, I cannot emphasize how big the mindset is. It is in a quarter of a part. Because I'll meet a lot of diabetics and they'll tell me, after a little bit of chat, they'll go like, I'm brilliant for 2 days and then I'm crap for 5. and then I'm brilliant for 3 days, and I'm crap for 5 days. And that's kind of a circle that a lot of diabetics go around in.
So I was going to ask, do you have to balance?
No, do you remember
Sorry,
speak
Sue.
to our...
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to ask if you had to balance the amount of exercise with the amount of carbohydrates, and how do you do that?
So I do that. So like I'm a big biker, and so I used to love. I don't do as much now, but I used to do a huge amount of biking. Like I go out for 4 or 5 hours. I know from experience, every half hour I take a Dexcom, which is a small unit of glucose. I'll just pop that, and that keeps me ticking.
Yeah.
And then also with the continuous glucose monitors, my thumb's there, so I can't show you. With the continuous glucose monitors, I know exactly what's going on. So I do a lot of climbing, and you need to obviously, if you're building somebody, you don't want to collapse. They're not going to look at it. So you can do that, but again, it's just getting fluid, and it's also understanding how much a Dexcom or how much a bit of Lucozade raises your blood sugar. Because the problem is, if you just feel like you're having a high blood and you just shoot down a whole bottle of Lucozade, you're going to be up here, and then you're going to be dropping down here, and it's like chasing a roller coaster ride. I know you have a question. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a bit prone to having regular blood tests.
Yeah.
And I'm, pretty healthy. But it's the first time that I've realised how many of the blood tests are taken on a regular basis, that people, I'm sure everybody here, have a similar situation. You go to the doctor, we'll do a blood test. If there's that many diabetes out there, diabetics, how come that hasn't been picked up by these regular blood tests?
Those diabetics that I talk about, that 1.3 million.
Yeah.
What happens with a lot of these guys, it's quite a sad sort of story. It's like they're maybe 30s, maybe in their mid-30s, right? So they got a job, and they just feel a little bit sluggish.
Yeah.
But they kind of think like, well, everyone's sluggish. 35, you just get sluggish, right? They haven't got a great diet. They're probably not in great health, and they just presume that this sort of natural decline is just kind of normal. And it's not normal, but they presume it's normal. And as they continue like that, they just don't bother going to the doctor. If they went in and got a blood test, very quickly they'll tell them you're type 1 diabetic. And I'll give you a great example. I was having a conversation with a guy at a party, and he said to me, oh yeah, my parents have diabetes, my brother had it. And I went, well, would you go get a check? No, I don't need it. But I have noticed that my eyes are getting blurred, which is what I sort of spoke on. And I was like, well, that's because your lenses are bloated, like effectively they're swollen, I think it's the term. Yes, swollen effectively because of the high blood sugars. You need to get tested. No, you didn't want to go, no interest, it wasn't going in. That's one of your 1.3 million. Yes, shoot.
Do you remember the late Michael Mosley, Dr. Michael Mosley?
Yeah.
Yeah, that rings a bell.
Yeah. The one who died
He
tragically.
died in Greece hiking, but he was
Oh, yes.
very much one. He warded off type 2 diabetes by doing high intensity training, only about 2 to 3 minutes of high intensity training twice a week.
Yeah.
So this was very interesting, obviously brought on more research. I'm not a big fan of big pharmaceutical companies, and obviously they can't make money off people who are not sick.
Yeah.
So diet and you are what you eat is a very important protocol. So what do you?
No, I don't think they can hear you.
How do you combine your exercise regime with your nutrition and obviously mindset in your company? This is obviously take control. This is what you are doing day to day in your company.
Yes, well, so I didn't quite get what was the actual question?
How do you combine your exercise regime with things like high intensity training, with your nutrition and your mindset in your
So,
company?
high intensity training, I'm not a big advocate of it. You're much better walking. Walking, running, that sort of slow burn sort of is much healthier for you than that high intensity impact that it has. And I'll give you an example. I actually lost the sight of my left eye because I used to do a thing called Body by Science, and I'd lift these huge heavy weights, and I'd very slowly come down and lift up, and I do it for 90 seconds, and I do 5 lifts or 5 exercises, and I had a huge hemorrhage in my left eye. And that's what high intensity
And
is.
this is just cycling and
Oh, but
getting
it's, so
your
it's
heart rate
kind of,
up slightly.
oh, so
2
that's,
minutes,
okay,
maybe
that's what I'm
back
talking
down.
about. So that's a much lower intensity, right? So
Yes.
it's going to relax. That's great. All that's great. But the most underrated is just walk. If you were to get out and walk 1 hour a day, you're going to be in fantastic nick. You don't need to do all this. And I used to play rugby at a very high level, and I'm generally fairly fit, but I do a lot of walking. Does that answer your question?
Not really, but that's
No.
okay.
I'll talk to you later on that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Well, I think, sorry Bill, last question, Bill?
I look at some of the school children today, and they are absolutely overweight. They're rushing to school, they're in McDonald's, they're in Kentucky Fried Chicken. I mean, they don't know what their lives are for. Their mother's taking them to school in morning by car.
Yeah.
You know, good God.
I mean, some of that 6.3 million, they're kids. They're kids, and you're getting type 2 diabetes in teenagers, which is just insane. And that has to do with the diet and the food industries. And I hope they treat at some point the food industries like they did with the smoking industry, because the food industry is causing mayhem. And I mean, there's nobody here in the food industries. I'm going to get sued later. It is. They are appalling. And then also the lack of facilities really to exercise. Kids have got to get out. Get them off the computers. Get them out and about playing rugby, golf, whatever, anything. Just get them moving. And I mean, the big one seems to be at the moment is bouldering in the climbing world. So there are bouldering centers appearing all over the place. It's in the Olympics and all the kids love it. Get them on that. Just get them out. But the diet is huge, and a lot of that as well is, you know, McDonald's and all these other examples, they're cheap. And it's easy.
Yeah.
And mothers and fathers are stepping away and they're not actually cooking for their kids and getting and investing the time where they should be. Because that time, even like to sit down and have dinner and just catch up on the daylight, that's very important, and that's kind of gone. And it needs to be brought back. So there's a number of ways that they can fight this. But it's horrific. It's horrific. And the cost of the NHS at the moment is 10% of the entire budget of the NHS is on diabetes. And there's some other stats I can give you, like, which is just shocking. And that 6.3 million, as they start to convert into type 2 diabetics, the numbers are going to get bigger, the budget's going to get bigger, and it's going to be much more costly. And as a general rule of thumb, when you start to get into decline where you're having issues, if you have an amputation within 5 years, you're dead. And that's literally because there's so much damage done to the rest of your body, you're in big trouble.
Well, I was going to say, what I've noticed lately in a lot of the supermarkets, there's a huge section now emerging near where you get the takeaway ready meals with high protein food.
Yeah.
So how would they're really pushing for the high protein with so much protein in it.
So-
how effective are they?
So really, if you strip back, like ready-made meals, they're not good.
Yeah.
Any of that sort of stuff, it's not good. It's high processed crap. Stay away from it. You're better off buying a chicken breast and a head of broccoli and literally cooking that, because it's almost as quick to do.
Yeah.
And if you get fluid with it, you'll actually get quite good at it. And generally, as a rule of thumb for me, what I do is I don't cook one meal, I cook 5 meals in one go. So I'll then take say my lunch, and then the rest of it goes in the fridge, and I'll work off it during the week. And that's just the way I work with it. But you get all the nutrients that you need from greens and protein. You don't need anything else. I haven't had a fruit in 15 years. A fruit. I haven't had a fruit. And it was like, you gotta have fruit, you gotta have fruit. No, you don't need it. No potatoes, that's a killer. If there's potatoes floating around downstairs,
Well, Simon, we were going to invite you to join us for supper tonight downstairs, but I'm not quite sure about any of the
We'll see what's on the menu.
Anyway, can I just say thank you so much for coming, and I'm astounded by the figures you've given us. It's very shocking, but thank you so much for taking time. We've thoroughly enjoyed your book. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.